Okay, close your eyes for a second. Just picture this. That feeling,
Yeah.
the big roller coaster drop, stomach in your throat,
Yeah.
or maybe getting lost in one of those amazing VR rides, or even just like the simple fun of a carousel.
Absolutely. Pure magic.
Amusement parks, right.
Yeah.
Places of excitement. But, and this is fascinating, they're also a huge, booming global business.
Huge is right.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that tries to unpack these big, complex topics and, give you the key takeaways.
Make sense of it all.
Exactly. And today we're diving deep into the global amusement rides market. We're using the latest report from Cognitive Market Research as our guide here.
A really comprehensive look.
Yeah, and our mission basically is to peel back the layers on this, understand what's driving this massive industry, and figure out where the big growth spots are around the world.
Where the action is happening.
Right. Okay, so let's just jump straight in because the main numbers are, well, they're kind of incredible. This industry isn't just growing, it looks set to almost double.
It's pretty staggering.
Yeah. From what, about $71.5 billion back in 2021 to a projected, get this, nearly $150 billion by 2033.
Wow.
That's a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of over 6.3% every single year. I mean, almost doubling a multi-billion-dollar industry. That's really something.
It really is. And what's fascinating to me is just the sheer scale, and the consistency of that growth prediction, especially when you think about all the economic ups and downs globally.
True.
It really signals this strong underlying demand for leisure experiences pretty much everywhere.
Right.
It feels like people are really choosing experiences maybe over just buying stuff.
Yeah, that experience economy we hear about. And amusement rides are clearly a big piece of that puzzle.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's take a sort of global tour then, region by region, see how this plays out.
Sure.
Where should we start? Maybe North America. Seems like a classic starting point.
Makes sense. A huge established market.
Right. So North America, it's also set to roughly double, growing from nearly $28 billion in 2021 to over $55 billion by 2033. That's an annual growth around, what, 5.8, 5.9%?
Solid growth, yeah.
And within that, no surprise, the U.S. is the giant, takes the lion's share.
Predictably.
But here's something I found interesting. Canada. It's actually growing faster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, over 6.5% annual growth rate. That's quite a bit quicker than the U.S., and Mexico's moving along nicely, too.
That Canadian number is interesting. It's not just, like, organic growth, then. It's just maybe there's more investment or perhaps a bigger push on domestic tourism.
Could be.
It kind of points towards maybe seeing these parks as, economic anchors for regions, not just fun spots. Investing ahead of demand, perhaps. That's quite a proactive strategy, if so.
That's a great point, the strategy behind it. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Europe. Now, Europe's maybe more established, but still dynamic. It's climbing from around $14 billion
Right.
up to over $27 billion by 2033. Growth rate pretty similar to North America, actually, around 5.8%. But when you look at the countries, it gets complicated, right?
Yeah, it really does. The regional average hides a lot of variation. You got places like Germany, Spain, Sweden. They're really pushing ahead.
Faster growth there.
Yeah, well over 6% annual growth in some cases. Yeah. Significantly higher than the average. Could be strong domestic tourism, maybe big investments in new parks, or just, a stronger consumer focus on leisure there.
And other places are slower.
Well, Russia, for instance, the data shows it lagging behind quite a bit compared to those others. So yeah, even in a mature market like Europe, you see these really different speeds, pockets of real dynamism.
Interesting. Okay, speaking of dynamism, let's talk Asia Pacific because this seems to be where the real momentum is globally.
Oh, absolutely. It's the powerhouse, no question.
The numbers are huge. It was just over $18 billion back in 2021, projected to explode to over $42 billion by 2033, and the growth rate, the highest globally, over 7.2% a year.
It's incredible growth.
So what's the story here? Why is Asia Pacific leading the charge like this?
Well, if you connect it to the bigger picture, it's several things firing at once. You've got China, obviously, which is just becoming this colossal market on its own set to more than double.
Right.
But the real standout, maybe the most surprising one, if you look at the rate, is India.
India, really?
Yeah, climbing at an amazing 8.1, almost 8.2% annual growth rate. That's the fastest in the whole region.
Wow. What's driving that in India specifically?
It seems to be more than just rising incomes, though that's part of it. It feels like a deeper societal shift. Leisure experiences, like theme parks, are becoming really integral to, the lifestyle aspirations of this rapidly growing urban middle class.
So entertainment infrastructure is almost being built alongside basic city growth.
Exactly. It's almost like leapfrogging development. They're building the fun stuff right alongside everything else. It's fascinating.
That really is. Okay, let's keep moving. South America, what's happening there?
South America is also showing really strong growth. The market's set to more than double as well, from about 4.4 billion up to nearly 9.6 billion by 2033.
And the growth rate?
Pretty impressive, too, around 6.6% annually.
Okay. Any standouts within the region?
Well, Brazil's the biggest market, naturally, but Argentina actually has a fantastic growth outlook. It's expanding at over 7% a year.
Argentina at 7%. That's quite high.
It is, and that kind of acceleration in a market like Argentina often signals, real emerging potential. Maybe tourism picking up, maybe more economic stability feeding into consumer spending on fun. Definitely a place to watch.
Got it. Okay. And the Middle East, we hear a lot about big projects there.
Yeah, and the numbers back that up. The Middle East is also projected to more than double, growing from just under 3.9 billion to over 8.2 billion.
Growth rate.
Around 6.5% annually. But again, some countries are really pushing that average up. Look at the UAE.
Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Exactly. The UAE shows really impressive growth, over 7.3% each year predicted.
So what's the main driver there? Is it just oil money diversifying?
That's a huge part of it, I think. Especially in places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they have these big strategic national plans, right? Vision 2030 and so on.
Right.
And investing heavily in tourism and entertainment is absolutely central to those plans. Diversifying away from oil, building massive new resorts, theme parks, attractions. It's all designed to pull in visitors, both local and international.
Building themselves into global leisure hubs.
Precisely.
Okay, fascinating. And finally, let's touch on Africa. Still emerging in many ways, but what does the data show?
Yeah, definitely an emerging market in this space. But the growth is consistent. It's expanding from about 3.2 billion in 2021 to nearly 6.8 billion by 2033. So again, more than doubling. The annual growth rate is steady, around 6%.
Consistent growth. Any particular countries showing stronger performance?
South Africa stands out. It's growing faster than the continental average, closer to 6.7% annually. And that just highlights, rising disposable incomes in key areas, a growing middle class, and this increasing appetite for modern leisure activities. It's starting from a smaller base, of course, but that consistent positive trend across the continent points to, significant future opportunities as economies develop.
Right. So we've kind of circled the globe, seen these incredible growth numbers everywhere. Let's just zoom out for a second. What are the fundamental things making this happen? What's really fueling this global surge?
Well, there are a few big currents, really. First, just urbanization. More people living in cities means more concentrated audiences for parks, simple density.
Makes sense.
Second, rising disposable incomes, especially in those emerging economies we talked about. People just have more money to spend on fun.
Okay.
Third, tourism growth globally. Travelers are actively looking for unique attractions, and parks are a big draw. And maybe underlying all of that is just this universal search for unique, memorable experiences, right? People want something extraordinary, whether it's the speed of a new coaster or the immersion of VR. They want thrills. They want memories.
That desire for something special, it seems like there's this massive, almost endless appetite for it. But it can't all be easy, can it? There must be challenges, obstacles for this booming market.
Oh, absolutely. It's not all smooth sailing. There are some pretty significant hurdles.
Like what?
Well, for one, the sheer cost. Building these massive, complex rides and parks. That takes huge upfront capital investment.
I can imagine.
Then there's safety. Regulations are incredibly strict, and rightly so. Ensuring millions of visitors are safe is paramount, but compliance adds a lot of cost and complexity.
Yeah, you can't cut corners there.
Not at all. And finally, there's this constant pressure to innovate. You have to keep things fresh. What wows people today might seem dated tomorrow. Consumer tastes change fast.
So how does the industry deal with that, especially the innovation part?
Well, that really raises the key question, doesn't it? Especially for newer markets. How do you overcome those high costs and keep innovating? A lot of it seems to be about embracing new tech AI, robotics, advanced materials to create maybe more personalized, more immersive, boundary-pushing experiences.
Using tech to stay ahead.
Exactly. And strategically reinvesting profits used to constantly fund that next generation of rides and attractions to keep people coming back. It's a cycle.
It sounds like innovation really is the lifeblood. So just to kind of wrap things up, the big picture is the amusement rides industry is well, it's thriving globally,
Absolutely booming.
driven by these powerful forces, more money in people's pockets, more city dwellers, more travel, and just that core human desire for unique fun. It's a pretty exciting time for anyone who loves a good theme park. So here's something to think about as we finish. As you, listening, think about your next, thrilling adventure. What do you imagine comes next? What new kinds of entertainment might take center stage in the amusement park of tomorrow? What could the rides of, say, 2040 even look like? How will they capture our imagination then? Welcome, listener. Today, we're doing a deep dive into, well, an industry that's really just exploded. It's gone from those, traditional seasonal fairs we remember to this massive global entertainment powerhouse, billions of dollars. We're talking about the Global Amusement Rides Market. And we've got some exclusive insights here from cognitive market research to help us understand what's going on.
Exactly. Our mission today is really to unpack the fascinating forces behind this market's growth. It's quite a ride, pardon the pun. We'll look at the big hurdles too, and of course, the really exciting innovations and trends shaping what comes next. You might be surprised by some of this.
Okay, so let's jump right in. How did we get here? From, like you said, cotton candy and carousels to this multi-billion-dollar giant. What's really propelling it?
Well, a huge driver, you really can't overstate it, is the boom in global tourism. And linked to that, rising disposable incomes. We're seeing this particularly strongly in developing regions, think Asia-Pacific, the Middle East. And the middle class is growing there. But it's more than just money. It feels like a cultural shift, doesn't it? Families are putting more value on experiences, on memory making.
Memory making.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So less focus on stuff, more on doing things.
Precisely. People want unique, shareable adventures, things you can, post about. Amusement parks fit that perfectly. So that fuels demand for all sorts of rides, from the really intense roller coasters to those very immersive water park attractions.
Okay, I get the experience part, but how are parks actually creating these better experiences? Technology must be playing a massive role here, right?
Oh, absolutely. Technology is fundamental now. It's not just bells and whistles. Think about AR, augmented reality, and VR, virtual reality. They're completely changing how we interact with rides. You could be on a standard coaster, but with an AR overlay, suddenly you're flying through some fantasy world. Or VR puts you on another planet entirely.
Wow. Okay, so it's about immersion. What about the nuts and bolts, the safety and operations?
Yeah, that's crucial too. IoT, the Internet of Things, means rides are packed with sensors now. They send back real-time data, allowing for predictive maintenance. You can spot potential issues before they cause a breakdown. That's huge for safety and efficiency. It cuts maintenance costs too. And then AI, artificial intelligence, helps automate things like managing queues or even optimizing the ride sequences.
So tech makes things more thrilling and safer. Interesting combo. It also sounds like it's not just about those giant destination parks anymore. Is entertainment getting, I don't know, closer to home? Urbanization playing a part?
Exactly. That's another key piece. With more people in cities and this demand for convenient leisure, we're seeing a rise in indoor amusement centers. You find them in malls now, things like that. This opens up a whole market for smaller, maybe more compact or transportable rides. It caters to people who want a quick hit of fun without planning a whole day trip. It's diversification.
Okay, so there's a lot of momentum, lots of innovation, but, every ride has its drops. What are the big challenges, the headwinds this industry faces?
Well, the upfront cost is definitely one. The sheer capital investment needed to build these things, enormous. And then there's the ongoing maintenance. These are really complex machines. It makes it tough for smaller players or new companies to just jump in.
Right, high barrier to entry. What else?
Safety regulations and liability. They're huge factors. Governments everywhere have incredibly strict standards you have to meet. Failure isn't really an option. It can mean lawsuits, big fines, even having to shut down. So compliance is expensive and requires constant attention.
Okay, cost and regulations make sense.
And don't forget seasonality. For many parks, especially outdoor ones, weather is a huge factor. It leads to unpredictable revenue downtime. That really impacts profitability in certain regions.
Yeah, a rainy summer can really hurt. Okay, so we've got this picture. Huge growth, cool tech, global reach, but also serious costs, regulations, and weather issues. But despite those challenges, you mentioned promising trends. What's next? What are visitors looking for now?
Customization is massive. And themed experiences. People want to feel emotionally connected. They want something that feels maybe a bit more personal. So parks are investing heavily in rides based on Hit movies, superheroes, popular culture. It's not just the ride mechanism, it's the whole package. Sound effects, lighting, a storyline, really trying to immerse you.
Immersive seems to be the key word here.
It really is. And another big one is sustainability. It's moved from being sort of a niche concern to a real strategic priority. You're seeing a focus on eco-friendly designs, energy-efficient rides. Manufacturers are looking at recyclable materials, solar power options, better motors. It's partly about appealing to consumers who care about this stuff.
Which is more and more people.
Exactly. But it also makes business sense in the long run. Saving energy saves money.
Right. Good point. Any other major shifts on the horizon?
I'd say the emergence of new markets is probably the biggest long-term trend, especially Asia-Pacific and the Middle East again. Countries like India, China, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, they're pouring money into building amusement infrastructure. It's often part of bigger plans to boost tourism. That represents enormous growth potential, really reshaping the global map of where this entertainment is happening.
So, pulling it all together, what's the takeaway? What does the future of fun look like based on all this?
Well, I think it's clear the market is on a really exciting path. Yes, there are challenges, regulation, cost, seasonality, those aren't going away. But the drive from tourism, the impact of technology, and this huge demand from new markets, it suggests a very dynamic future. Innovation and smart expansion seem to be the key.
A dynamic future indeed. So here's a question for you, our listener, to think about. As these rides get more immersive, more sustainable, and pop up in more places around the world, how might your next big adventure, your next experiential thrill, be totally transformed?